Hi guys, my name's Frankie and I would like to do a short video on our frozen IVF cycle. The date at the moment is the 4th of April 2017, in case you guys are watching and wondering when this is. And we embarked on our IVF cycle back in December 2016. Frozen cycle wasn't a route that we were planning to go down originally, and I will go into that a little bit later on in this video. So why are we doing this video sort of 5 months into the cycle? We use YouTube a lot to sort of give us some source of information. I'm a person who likes to pre-plan everything, so I would use YouTube to sort of guide me along the way of what to expect in appointments and things like that. Sometimes I've realised that it was quite hard to find some answers to some questions, and it just dawned on me the other day that I'm in a position now where we were comfortable to share our story, and hopefully we might highlight some points that some people haven't managed to discuss or even just come across that video yet that had the answers. So yes, so Jake and I, we've been together about 8 years now. We have been married for 2. We've done everything a usual couple does, have holidays and bought a house, and you know, and our next step in life was to try for a family. Now, we have been off contraception for 6 years now. I always wanted to be a mum, and Jake was really supportive of it and wanted to start a family together, and we knew I had fertility issues, so I knew from an early age it would take a little bit of time. Just didn't assume it would take this long. So my fertility issues, as I've just touched base on, I have polycystic ovaries. I also suffered peritonitis 15 years ago, and which it caused a lot of internal scarring inside me within my intestines and my ovaries, and has since sort of caused issues along the way. We have had a few chemical miscarriages. One, unfortunately, was around our wedding time as well. So it's been quite hard, but it made us more determined. And we're one of these couples that, you know, we can't do it all at once. So we understood it, you know, trying for a baby actually went on a bit of a back burner when we bought our house and when we got married. And we've now got to a point where we know we had to take it seriously and really push for what we wanted, like we'd done when we bought the house, when we, you know, when I booked our wedding and stuff like that. So we went to a GP back in September 16 and spoke to him and explained our situation. I think my previous miscarriage was in May 16, and he referred me back to the gynaecologist at the hospital, which is on the Kent and London border, who treated me when I was 15, and said to go and speak to them and find out if there was any help. I had previously, that I haven't mentioned, had ovarian drilling done. Sorry, I'm just got a bit of a dry throat. I had ovarian drilling done about 5 years ago, and was on a course of Clomid for a year. It didn't work well with me. The ovarian drilling caused me to have a regular cycle for about sort of 7 or 8 months. But we actually had no success at all during that time. So going to the hospital last year, they sort of agreed that there was no point to try and do the ovarian drilling again or to put me back on a course of Clomid, and the way forward would be to go and see a fertility clinic. So we were referred to King's College Hospital, which is in Denmark Hill, London. And we saw a specialist there who recommended that we would go down the IVF cycle route. We are on the NHS because of my fertility problems, and we have been offered 2 cycles on the NHS. This is my first cycle as I'm filming right now. So it was very quick when we got into the process, and we were in for regular scans. I had to have blood tests. My husband had to do sperm tests, and we got to a point where the doctors decided let's go for a normal cycle. Within a week, I think I got asked to come back, and they explained to us that we would be doing 2 injections, one called gonal F and one called, I believe it's cetrotide. And we were aiming for a fresh cycle. So within those sort of few weeks, everything just whizzed past, and they induced me on a bleed, because I only really bleed sort of 3 times a year, 4 times maximum. They put me on a pill which was almost like a strong contraceptive pill that caused a bleed within 7 days. And we then went on to have a contraceptive pill for 20 days, of which I started my period 2 days later. And on the first day of my period, we began the gonal F injections. The injections are going to be a big question for a lot of you ladies out there. What's the right way to do it? Who should do it? Do you know what? Everything I planned for the injections didn't happen on the day. I was always adamant that Jake would do the injections for me, and when the day came, and he was holding the needle close to my stomach, I must point out I do have a needle phobia. It took 3 hours of him attempting to try and inject me, and in the end I realised I had to give it a go. Otherwise there was no cycle. So I bit the bullet, got on with it, and did it myself. And I have to be honest, girls, it's nothing. It was the smallest prick I think there was on the stomach. It didn't even come close to a blood test or anything like that. So I think about a week in, I was still bleeding at that time. I was still on my period at the beginning days of gonal F, and we began cetrotide once I came off my period, start building up the womb. That's a harder injection to have. That is a syringe-based injection that you mix up with a powder. The syringe has saline solution in it, and that was difficult. The needle looked a lot longer, a lot wider. A lot of YouTube videos, a lot of women say it's quite painful. I would say there was days where you would get a little sting, nothing compared to like a wasp sting, nothing like that, just a little. You would know that something has been injected. There were days where actually I put the needle in, pulled the needle out at the end, and I must have nicked myself and caused it to start bleeding. And that really shocked me sometimes, because it never hurt with the needle. So please don't be daunted by the idea of injecting. Some of you may rather your husbands or your partners to help you. For me, I actually decided going forward I liked to take it quite slowly, so I would rather have full control of that myself. Most people are generally on injections for about 10 days. I was on injections for 25 days. We weren't responding very well, and we were called in every other day for blood tests and scans. And actually the blood tests were our saving grace, because the scans were showing that my follicles wasn't responding very well. They were growing so slowly, but then the hormones in my blood level actually showed something was going on that we just couldn't see yet. We got to about day 22, and we were prepared for the worst. We were told that if this blood didn't show a huge increase, because my dose on gonal F had doubled by that point, that they would cancel the cycle. And it was a really hard day for us. I remember going into work and seeing my friend who knew the ins and outs of what I'm going through at the moment, and I was putting a brave face on for her, but at the same time I was just thinking, I can't believe we've done this for nothing. But someone must have been looking over us, because that day I got a phone call to say my hormone level, my bloods I think it had doubled in the last 2 days, which was brilliant. So we were told to come back in the following day, which we did, and we were told that we were going to start doing a trigger at the weekend. And the news was broken to us that because I had so many follicles, I think I had about 30 on each side, that the decision was decided, because I am at high risk of overstimulating, that they were going to freeze my embryos should I have any. They were still a little bit unsure whether we would get many eggs out of the follicles because some were still quite small. So they did say that, you know, at best case scenario, we may get 4 or 5 eggs out of you, which I was happy with. So we went home and we did a different trigger injection to what they'd originally sent us. And on the Monday morning, I was taken in for an egg collection. I wasn't sedated through that. I know they at King's they said that some women do respond different to others. Some are in almost a drunk haze. Some women do go to sleep, like a deep sleep. And for me, the sedation didn't work that well. I actually didn't feel out of it at all. They tried to test me. They asked me if things were going fuzzy, and they did for a whole of about a split second. And at that point, my doctor decided, because I was so swollen and I could barely move and I was in a lot of pain, he did decide, was it worth cancelling the cycle? I don't know what came over me that day, but I decided, no, not giving up, and I told them to proceed. It was painful. It was probably the most painful thing I've ever been through. And would I do it again, knowing the pain I've been through? In a heartbeat, in an absolute heartbeat. And we ended up with the fantastic news of having 23 eggs collected. And of that, 16 embryos took place. So I'm going to finish this video now because I would like to go a bit more in depth. So I'm going to do parts to it. But that's just giving you a gist of my egg collection, which actually was my last appointment. So join me for the next one and I'll get you into a bit more detail. Happy days.